Our scripture today is Mark 4, verses 21 to 34. There are three stories here, so I'd like to read the scripture. Jesus said to them, "Does anyone bring a lamp in order to put it under a basket or a bed? Shouldn't it be placed on a lampstand? Everything hidden will be revealed, and everything secret will come out in the open. Whoever has ears to listen should pay attention." He said to them, "Listen carefully. God will evaluate you on the same standard you use to evaluate others. Indeed, you will receive even more. Those who have will receive more, but as for those who don't have, even what they don't have will be taken away." Verse 26. Then Jesus said, "This is what God's kingdom is like. It's as though someone scatters seed on the ground, then sleeps and wakes night and day. The seed sprouts and grows, but the farmer doesn't know how. The earth produces crops all by itself. First the stalk, then the head, then the full head of grain. Whenever the crop is ready, the farmer goes out to cut the grain because it's harvest time." What's a good image for God's kingdom? What parable can I use to explain it? Consider a mustard seed. When scattered on the ground, it's the smallest of all the seeds on the earth. But when it's planted, it grows and becomes the largest of all the vegetable plants. It produces such large branches that the birds in the sky are able to nest in its shade. With many such parables, he continued to give them the word as much as they were able to hear. He spoke to them only in parables, then explained everything to his disciples when he was alone with them. May God bless the reading of this word.
Thank you, Lois, for that reading. So we are in our Mark sermon series, and one of the things that happens when we do this kind of we're progressing through verse by verse kind of sermon series, is that we pick up on those themes that we don't get sort of one at a time. And the theme of these parables, the secrecy, even the healings, and some of the times when Jesus casts out demons and other good things that Jesus does, he wants them to be secret. And we bristle at that a little bit, I think, as readers, as worshipers of Jesus, friends of Jesus, because we see it differently. For many of us throughout our lives, we've been told to tell other people about Jesus. And here, Jesus is telling people in the story, "Don't talk about me." So how do we put these two together? So as I was getting ready for this, I was thinking about secrets and riddles and code language that we use. And we want to be truth tellers. This is something that we pride ourselves in. This is something that we look for in our leaders, in our politicians, in our celebrities even. We want truth tellers. But we also sometimes participate in other things. We keep some secrets. We talk in a way that some people understand us and not others. We hide things from some people. Why do we do that? So I'm inviting you just to think of a few examples in your life where you do that, where you have done that. What are the reasons? And we have bad reasons to keep secrets, but I think we have some good ones. So I'll let you kind of chew on that one for a little while. As Lois read through, there are three parables in this section. They're all quite short, and so I thought it would be fitting to blend them together into one conversation. The first one is about a lamp, and I brought a lamp here. I have an oil lamp, so I'm just going to light it here. visual. There we go. And as long as the air circulating doesn't blow it out, we should be fine. Jesus begins with this parable about a lamp. And he says, listen, we don't have lamps to keep them in hiding. Which is kind of funny because I got this lamp as a gift, and it has largely sat unused because it uses lamp oil. And maybe once upon a time, lamp oil was a common substance. I feel like I have to go out of my way to find it. But we, this is something that happens when there's a power failure. All of a sudden, we need light. Now, we have cell phones that can be flashlights. Somewhere in a drawer, we have a flashlight. In another drawer, we've got matches. And in another drawer, we've got candles. And when there's light, we can find everything. But when there isn't light, that's when we need to go looking for the matches and the candles and the lanterns and the lamps and the flashlights. It's sort of one of those these kind of paradoxes of life, things that don't quite go together. And this is the aspect of life that Jesus is kind of poking at in his parables. There are things we do that don't quite make sense. So Jesus tells them about a lamp. You have a lamp, and what do you do with it? Well, it's not hidden away. It doesn't do you any good hidden away. You get your lamp, you take it out, and you put it in a high place so that you can see where it is, and so that because of the lamp, you can see everything else in the room. So, this is a parable. What is Jesus talking about? Well, there are a couple of options, and I'll go through the less familiar ones first. There was one suggestion I saw that Jesus is talking about parables themselves. That Jesus tells a parable so that you will pay attention to it, because it's not easy, it's not automatic. You have to listen to it, pay attention to it, think about it. And then all of a sudden, you've heard the parable, it makes sense, and now you turn around and everything else you see makes more sense because you've heard the parable. That works. Another one is there's a string of parables here about the kingdom. So then maybe the lamp in the parable is the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus is coming to talk about the kingdom, but he doesn't want it to be temporary and hidden and a secret to be kept. No, the kingdom is coming. We're telling everybody about it. The kingdom is going to be a big deal. It's going to be out for everyone to see and discuss. The final one is that Jesus himself is, and this is kind of, I think, our most common reading of this. Jesus himself is the lamp. Jesus is the light of the world, we read in other places. And so Jesus isn't coming to stay hidden away. He's not hiding in his carpenter shop. He's not hiding in the wilderness. He is speaking so that everybody can come. And when the light is shining, then everyone around can see it. And this is coming true. The crowds are coming. They're listening. They're paying attention. And then also there's sort of this, the time factor is this story, Mark, was written about 30 years after Jesus has died. And so then that reality kind of frames the way the story is told. It changes the way people remember it. So when Jesus is talking about the lamp, he's just talking about light. And when he's talking about putting it up in a high place, then everybody in the crowd was thinking, well, yeah, obviously you put it up high so that it can cast a bigger light in more area. But then after Jesus has died, publicly executed, elevated on a cross, then the followers are thinking, wait a second, is that what Jesus meant? That we take the lamp and we put it up high so that everyone can see it. Jesus was put up high on a cross so that everyone could see it. That was the Romans' idea. They wanted to put criminals up high and cast as much shame as possible on anybody who would choose to live like that. But that's not what happened with Jesus. Instead, Jesus then became a light. That this isn't just a criminal who's dying and experiencing shame. No, this is God. This is God who loves all of us so much that he was willing to come here, live among us, feel what we feel, die how we die, even the worst kind of death, to show us how much love God has for us. The lamp is up high on a lampstand. And then Jesus mixes in this parable. He says, so now everything that is hidden will be revealed. Well, it's not the lamp anymore that's hidden. Now the lamp is casting light, and everything else is now revealed. All of the other hidden things, hidden by the dark, are being revealed. And then so he adds this, whoever has ears to listen should pay attention. Now this makes sense. It goes back to the previous story, the parable of the sower in the first 9 verses of chapter 4. The Greek mixes body parts here, which is interesting. It says that we should listen with our eyes. Or if you're listening, if you hear it, if you understand it, you should listen and watch. Right? We're paying attention. We can see and we hear. When somebody catches our attention, when it's somebody that we want to listen to, when it's something that catches our attention on the screen in front of us, on the coming out of the speakers, then we turn everything we have towards that to hear what it says. This is what Jesus wants from us. But there's also a piece that I feel like I'd missed in the past. It says, everything is being revealed if you have ears to hear, if you are willing to listen, then listen with everything. Everything is going to be revealed. When the kingdom comes, when the light is put up, when Jesus is here, when the kingdom of heaven arrives, hidden things will be revealed. You better pay attention. There's a story a little while ago I heard, probably myth, but it's kind of funny. Somebody went into a restaurant and is loudly, to be funny, they weren't talking on the phone, but they made it look like it. They said, hey, your husband is here with a different woman. And 3 men got up and left the restaurant. When we hear things that inspire us, we connect, we pay attention. When we hear things that convict us, we pay attention. So Jesus doesn't say, hey, pay attention if it makes you feel good. No, he doesn't care. Pay attention. Hidden things will be revealed. Your hidden sins, revealed. Your hidden pain, revealed. The person who's persecuting you in ways that you can't talk about, revealed. The economic injustices that are keeping you down, revealed. All of the good things you're doing that nobody hears about, revealed. Listen. Pay attention. The next story comes after this kind of tie-in, which seems interesting. We hear this before, that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And it seems like this is happening more and more. The wealthiest people around us have absurd wealth. And in some ways that can be inspiring. We're like, oh, that's going to be me someday. But a woman told me recently, she says, the thing with men is that they never really give up hope of becoming professional athletes. And that hit a little bit hard. With Tom Brady retiring, there's one fewer 40-year-old in the NFL. It's a little uncomfortable. For me, in the NHL, it was Jaromir Jagr. When he retired, a whole bunch of people suddenly didn't have people their age in the NHL anymore. But in this situation, Jesus is using this rich getting richer story, this economic reality, as a connector to us paying attention. It's a reminder of the kingdom, right? So I want to be in the NHL, but I've now at 44 years old sort of come to terms with the fact that that's not happening. And the more I realize it, the less I feel connected to those accolades. Right? And then as soon as I realize, okay, no, I'm not going to be a billionaire, then I feel farther away from the billionaires in this life. And then I feel less likely to support government initiatives to protect the billionaires from Joe Schmoes like me. So this strange passage here that says, those who have will receive more. But those who don't, even what they don't have, will be taken from them. It's exaggerated, but in terms of paying attention, then all of a sudden, those who are willing to learn, those who are willing to grow, those who are paying attention to Jesus, paying attention to the kingdom, as they are paying attention, they will learn more. If you're willing to learn more, you will learn even more than you already know. But as soon as you stop trying to learn more, you're going to forget more than you ever knew. This is the connection. We understand it's true about wealth, but it's also true about knowledge. It's also true about spirituality. It's also true about hope. All of these things that we think just kind of come and go, but we have to lean into them. We have to try. We have to learn and focus. Because as soon as we give up, it leaves. And more leaves than we even thought that we had. The second parable here is also about a farmer casting seed. And this one is interesting because it's different. The other stories about farmers are often quite complementary to the farmer. Usually because in those parables, the farmer is God, the connection that seems to be the most clear. But in this story, we see that Jesus is connecting the kingdom of God to a farmer who goes out, he casts his seed, and then he stops working. And the farmer doesn't know how the seed germinates, becomes a plant, and grows. The farmer isn't controlling that, but the seed goes through the scientific, biological process of putting out roots, pushing its way past the soil, and putting out leaves and branches and flowers, all while the farmer is sitting around doing nothing. And then, all the while, the farmer isn't making them grow. Finally, the plant reaches maturity and is ready to be harvested, and then the farmer comes along without having made them grow, without understanding how they grow, but comes along for the harvest. We bristle at this depiction of farmers too, because here we hold farmers in pretty high esteem. Farmers work hard. It's because of farmers that we eat. It's because of farmers that people came to this land in the first place. So why are we disparaging the work of this particular farmer? But in this story, Jesus wants to make clear that the farmer in this story isn't getting all of the credit. And we can connect to this when we go to the grocery store. Let's say you're buying a loaf of bread. And in that moment you pause. Let's say you're feeling particularly grateful. Maybe you read that book on the importance of gratitude. Whatever it is, you stop in the grocery store and you want to be grateful. It's a good practice to do. You pick up the loaf of bread and you look towards the bakery section and you say, wow, somebody made this bread for me. Somebody mixed the ingredients. They might have just dumped it into a machine, but they mixed the ingredients. They pushed the right buttons, and then it baked. The yeast did its thing. It rose, and they sliced it. It's in a bag, and I get to take this home and feed it to my family. Somebody made this bread for me. And then you can go one step back. Say, but maybe it was baked here in the store, but maybe it was baked in a factory, and it didn't just come here by itself. Somebody did that. Somebody put it on a crate, and they hauled it into the rig of a trailer, and somebody drove that trailer from the factory here to the store, and now I get to feed it to my family. And then you can go one step farther back than that. Yet you could say, okay, a farmer bought a whole bunch of seed, dumped it in his tractor, and drove around to make sure that the seeds would grow into wheat, and harvested it so that it could be processed into flour so that I could feed my family. It's a good exercise to do, and it's a good thing to incorporate into our prayers. We bless the food and the hands that have prepared it. But in that process, we don't give people credit for things they haven't done, right? We don't give the baker credit for the yeast doing its job. The yeast did its job, right? We don't give the driver credit for powering the vehicle. That was the gas. And we don't give the farmer credit for the process of photosynthesis. That's the sun, that's the leaves, that's all of the things that are happening within the plant. The farmer gets no credit for that. So why is Jesus, who seems to be trying to start a movement, trying to get people on board for the thing that he wants to get started, to do this kingdom that he's talking about? So why is he telling them all the things they aren't getting credit, the farmer isn't getting credit for? And I think sometimes what happens is we get invited to be a part of something. We want to be a part of a new initiative. We might want to start a new job. We might have a new opportunity that's in front of us, and we say, okay, I'll do it. But first, I need to know who else is involved. I need to know the strategy of getting to the next point. I need to know where the money is coming from, how much money will be there, how much money I'm getting. I need to know all these things, and then you can sign me up. Then I'll do it. But Jesus is saying, okay, but the kingdom doesn't work that way. So many things are happening behind the scenes. You don't get to know. Not because you're not important enough, but because it's happening behind the scenes, you don't know. So you see somebody who's down and out, and they're asking for a handout. You want to give them some money. Well, are they going to spend it on alcohol? Are they going to waste it? You don't know. Maybe they will. But maybe that gift and the hope that you had in them to give them the gift, maybe that sparks something. Maybe that encourages something in them. Maybe that's one of many steps towards getting back into regular, healthy life. That's the kingdom. Yeah, there are things happening behind the scenes you don't know. You would love to know it. I would love to know the impact of my words, of my careful decisions. I would love to know the impact of the money going to the places that it goes to. But I can't. Not because people keep that a secret. This isn't Jesus giving leaders permission to keep secrets. This is Jesus saying, stuff is happening behind the scenes we don't know. The Holy Spirit is working in people's lives, changing them, and you can't see it, you can't control it, you can't understand it. But it's happening. This is the way the kingdom works. You want to get on board? We're happy to have you. You want to understand every little detail of it? You might not be ready for the kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is like a lazy, witless farmer. because the crop grows with or without him. As long as, when the harvest is ready, the farmer is ready to harvest. Jesus goes on from there to talk about a mustard seed. Mustard seed is a powerful image here in the city of Calgary, where that's the name of the organization that is helping homeless folks. And why did they choose that name? Well, it might not be clear to folks outside of the church, but for us, it's an important image. And here we have to exercise a little bit of critical thinking, a little bit of abstract thinking. So here, Jesus is talking about mustard. He says it's the smallest seed in the world. Well, it isn't exactly. But in their world, among their seeds, it was. And he says, in Mark at least, he kind of explains that it grows into so in Matthew and John it says it's a tree with strong branches, but in Mark it's a different word for like a bush. And it says that the birds can, and this is an interesting kind of collection of words here. So in our common English, it says that the birds can nest there. The nest is the verb. Other translations will make their nests in it. Others find shelter. There's a variety of things. Whatever it is, that they will find a home there. Now, for us, we can see this just kind of as a paradox: small seed, big plant. That can be the whole image. And then when we think about that in terms of homelessness, small gift, big impact. That works pretty well. But as a parable of the kingdom, we can see it the same way: small gift, big impact; small words, big impact; small people, big impact; small nation, big impact. Jesus is speaking to a crowd of simple people. Right? There are rich, educated people, but they've mostly come to scoff and to trap Jesus in his words. And they're really not going to latch onto this. They're not going to understand it. Our ability to understand parables is often connected to our ability to put ourselves into the parable. And if you want to put yourself into this parable, you have to see yourself as small and insignificant. Some of us aren't capable of doing that. Some of us don't want to. That's been thrust on us by other people for a long time. But as a way of learning, that's kind of what we have to do. So if Jesus says, hey, think about a mustard seed. Think about how small it is, how unimportant it is. Now, already Jesus has been making comparisons, speaking abstractly, so the people in the crowd already are equipped this way. So Jesus is explaining the mustard seed, and there are people listening saying, yeah, that's me, I get it. That's us. Our family is poor. Our nation is poor. Those soldiers are just going to trample over us whenever they want. I get it. I'm the seed. And then Jesus explains, okay, it's a small seed, but it grows big. And it becomes an important plant in the garden, so big that birds can find shelter there. Birds can build their nests there. Birds can find refuge there. So some scholars have said, well, in this parable, then the birds is us, the outsiders, the Gentiles who've now been able to fly in and make a shelter in what was traditionally Jewish space. That could be what Jesus was getting at. But I'm not terribly interested in identifying with the bird in this parable. I identify with the seed. Because I sometimes feel like my words, my efforts, my gifts, my wealth, my all of the things that I try to put forward to contribute to help other people, they all feel small sometimes. But our gifts, our work, our thoughts, our expressions towards other people, they feel small, but they have a big impact. So we get to identify with the mustard seed here. Jesus loved speaking in parables. We do too. As long as we're on the inside, as long as we get to understand. Now, I suspect that there are people here who are comfortable speaking in some sort of code language. And you've probably had an opportunity to think about when you do that and why you do that. And I won't ask you to shout it out. You might have to give away some secrets to do that. But we have lots of opportunities to and lots of reasons to. Tuesday, this week, is Valentine's Day. Just a heads up. Maybe you write that down. So as you get closer to Valentine's Day, you might want to keep a secret. Hey, do you need anything from the grocery store? I'm going to pick something up. The something is flowers, but he's not going to tell you that. Right? We keep secrets when we're trying to surprise somebody with something good. My children are old enough in school, they're learning French. It's great to see. I can use my French language skills with them if they're interested. The first word in French, or the first term in French that my children learned wasn't bonjour, it wasn't merci, it was crème glacée, which might seem a little bit strange, because when the kids were young, if they were well behaved, then we thought, let's have a dessert together. And then in French, we could say to each other as parents, should we get out the ice cream? Well, my children are smart. And they figured out, when they're speaking French to each other, pay attention. And all of a sudden we learned, wait a second, they know what ice cream is in French. We're going to have to change the code. I've heard stories from you. Your parents would speak German or Russian or whatever it was to keep a secret from the children. It was a good secret. Sometimes adults have secrets they want to keep from children. Sometimes teachers have to keep things secret from students. Sometimes bosses have to keep things secret from staff. Keeping secrets isn't by itself sinful or criminal or bad. It's the content of the secret. Jesus tells parables in a way to keep secrets from people who aren't ready to learn them. But I think it connects to what Jesus said earlier in this collection of parables about the rich getting richer. That Jesus isn't teaching in such a way to keep out the bad people who aren't supposed to learn. He's speaking in such a way that the people who are leaning in will learn and grow. And the people who are ready to learn will pick up more and more. And the people who aren't ready, who don't want to, they won't even understand the thing that Jesus is saying. They can criticize him, they don't like him, they don't want him to have any power or credit in their society. But they're not even paying close enough attention to know what he's talking about. But we are. We see the beauty in the parable. We see ourselves in the parables. We see our contributions in the mustard seed. We see our hope, our light, our peace in the light of the lamp. And we see our growth, our learning in the plants that are growing outside of the farmer's control. We are in these stories. And because we've heard them, then we can see the world around us a little bit clearer. So may we continue to lean in, may we continue to learn, and may we continue to grow.